by Kimberly Jackson. With Independence Day just around the corner, I thought I would offer a little peek into the history most of us were never taught in school. Let's face it, today's politicized education system is the primary culprit behind the divisions that plague our great country. Beginning at a young age, children are filled with demoralizing stories about black struggle and victimization by whites, as if this is the full measure of the black experience or even that of America. The fact of the matter is black and white Americans have often worked side by side, contributing to our rich history dating back to the American Revolution. Unfortunately, much of this history has been distorted and even erased from textbooks by those who seek to discredit America's founding. Have you ever heard of Wentworth Cheswell or the Rev. Jonas Clark? How about Peter Salem? If you haven't, don't feel bad. I didn't know, and I taught history for years. It's time to rediscover these amazing black patriots who, along with white patriots, helped America win her independence. 1. Wentworth Cheswell, 1746–1817. Few people have ever heard of Wentworth Cheswell, yet in 1775 he rode alongside Paul Revere to alert everyone that the British were coming. The two men eventually split off. Cheswell rode north and Revere west. In addition to being a patriot, Cheswell was a respected school teacher, church leader and historian. He also became America's first black judge in 1768. That's 7 years before America won her independence. 2. Jonas Clark, 1730–1805. During his famous ride, Paul Revere visited the home of the Reverend Jonas Clark in Lexington, where Samuel Adams and John Hancock were also lodging. With a British invasion imminent, Rev. Clark reassured everyone that he and his black and white congregation were ready to fight. And fight they did, in the Battle of Lexington on April 19, 1775. There's even a famous painting of the battle depicting members of Clark's church defending their town. 3. James Armistead, 1760–1832. When James Armistead was granted permission to serve under the young Gen. Marquis de Lafayette in the American Revolution, I doubt he ever imagined himself becoming America's first double spy. Armistead was originally dispatched to British Gen. Benedict Arnold's camp posing as an escaped slave looking for work, which he obtained. He was also assigned to work amidst other British generals, including the Crown's best Gen. Charles Cornwallis. Armistead gathered intel on the British and promptly gave it to Lafayette. Ironically, Cornwallis' trust in Armistead developed into another job, spying on the Americans. Armistead immediately began filtering inaccurate information back to the British, ultimately impacting the outcome of the war. After the war, Lafayette wrote to the Virginia General Assembly, describing Armistead's valuable service. He was officially granted his freedom and full retirement pension. 4. Lemuel Haynes, 1753–1833. The Rev. Lemuel Haynes was taken in at a young age by Deacon David Rose, who guided him through completion of school and an apprenticeship. Later, Haynes enlisted with the Minutemen of the Connecticut Militia, taking part in important battles, including the Siege of Boston and a military expedition against Fort Ticonderoga. After the war, Haynes became the first black preacher ordained by a mainstream Christian denomination. You might also be surprised to learn that he had all-white congregations in Connecticut, Vermont, Massachusetts and New York. 5. Peter Salem, 1750–1816. Another member of the legendary Minutemen, Peter Salem fought in a number of important battles, including the famous Battle of Bunker Hill on June 7, 1779. This battle was depicted in a painting titled The Death of General Warren at the Battle of Bunker Hill, by John Trumbull. In the painting, Salem is standing behind the man with the sword, Thomas Grosvenor. Salem fired the shot that killed Maj. John Pitcairn, the British officer who led the Redcoats' attack on Salem's small unit at Lexington. Salem received 14 military commendations and was honored by Gen. Washington is a hero. Most people are unaware that many of the soldiers who fought in the Revolutionary War were black, with nearly 5,000 fighting in the Continental Army. In fact, military units often consisted of both black and white patriots fighting and dying side by side. What's even more astonishing is that while much of this history is unknown today, this wasn't always the case. For generations, historians had written about these events in textbooks. William Cooper Nell, for example, published The Colored Patriots of the American Revolution in 1855. In recent years, these fascinating stories have been excluded from the classroom as if they never existed. American children deserve better. They deserve to be taught an accurate account of history, one that includes inspiring stories of patriotism, integration, and sacrifice. As we celebrate Independence Day, let's remember all of our American heroes, regardless of color. Kimberly Bloom Jackson is a cultural media anthropologist. She is also the author of Hollywood's White Identity Crisis, Inside the Movie and Television Industry's Dash to Diversity and What It Means for America, forthcoming. She can be found at snoopinganthropologist.com.